Hi there, welcome to Terraland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Gemini energy. And like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Gemini energy. The bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy. We've all got free will and we have to make these decisions in our life. And even if people are moving forward in their life, kind of having hope and faith and belief in themselves and in love, that's kind of high vibe energy. There's still, we always have our fears and our insecurities and some of our self-limiting beliefs that we have to deal with. And for people who are moving forward in that energy with other people in the world or in their life or their workplace or whatever, everybody's kind of doing that work within themselves to keep their more shadowy nature at bay. We could all act more prideful, egotistical, stubborn, immature, bossy, controlling if we wanted to. And high vibe people temper their more shadowy nature because they've learned. The reason for the top rose reading is the Knight of Pentacles, which in high vibe is I've learned lessons in life. And I know if I act in more shadowy ways of being, it's not going to work out the way I want. And in high vibe, when someone is holding the pentacle, it means they've kind of learned some lessons in life, healed, grown, and matured themselves in some way, and are taking action in truth and love. Now, it doesn't mean that everything we go invest in, we can get in relationships with lovely people who are motivated by truth and love, but is their idea of the dream life and what they view as victorious and successful, kind of with the Six of Wands. Within any spectrum of a stage of life, we know all sorts of wonderful people, but it's like trying to find a best friend or someone you want to date. I could know lovely people. Do I want to get in a more involved relationship with you? No, and maybe I shouldn't. And so high vibe energy is also not taking action more, and the Six of Wands is Leo energy, out of ego. I don't want, things might seem like a good idea, maybe got involved in something, but should I keep moving forward in it? Is that my truth? Is what kind of we're motivated and inspired long term my truth, or is it not? And we could wish some people, I wish you peace, but some people aren't going to move forward with certain people in their life, even though they're lovely people. And the difference between the one wand and the Six of Wands is the Five of Wands that kind of got some inner conflict about, is our truth the same? We could both be motivated and inspired by love and treating each other the way we like to be treated and being loving and encouraging and supportive of each other. But, if I don't feel like the Knight of Pentacles also is working to become the King of Pentacles, and the King and Queen of Pentacles is the only married suit in the deck. So, we can date people, we can know that people are lovely people, but I might not feel it's the right relationship for me to get in a more involved relationship with, for some people. So some people could be dealing with that. And while they're dealing with that, they could be dealing with some of their fears about. The reason for the bottom rose reading is the Fool card, which is like the King of Wands I view as Aries energy, but it's also Aquarius and Pisces. I can be drawn and attracted to people. I can have these things of the world that I would like to manifest in my life, but I have my way of viewing the world, and I have things I like to invest my. You can meet a lovely person and say the things that they like to go invest their time, energy, and effort into that they find enjoyable, their way of living life, their way of viewing life. It's like, we're not quite so compatible on that, right? you know? And, it's all, again, it's like trying, you can have friends, but is someone more like a best friend? You can know people and date people, but do I think, you know, I'm willing to take that leap of faith, right? Is what the Fool card can talk about. So, if people are in a job, a friendship, or relationship with some of those situations, it's a natural process in a relationship, probably to a degree. Is this still my truth? Are we kind of still on the same page, or are we not? Is the other person, within any stage of life, some people can be a little more mature than other people, a little more boss. They can be people motivated and inspired by love, but still people can be just a little more bossy, a little bit more about themselves, a little bit more immature, a little more codependent. And in the shadowy row, some people could feel, or that someone, if they were to keep moving forward with some people, we don't want to get caught up in our head. And Gemini is air sign energy, which can be represented by the 8 and the 9 of swords of getting caught up in our head. We don't want to get caught up in our head and like sabotage a relationship. So that's where, from the 1 wand to the 6 of wands and the Knight of Pentacles, I'm going to work through my own inner conflict, my own fears and my own insecurities that could kind of tempt me to not keep moving forward with something, right? And even within ourselves, we can be moving forward in life, and then it's like, the Knight of Pentacles is like the slowest moving knight in the deck. I mean, it's slow, steady steps, maybe 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Great reward takes great effort, and there is no reward without effort, to some degree. Let's not go into that. But, we all have our shadow nature that kind of would like it to just be more about us, because Aries energy is about the self. If I keep moving forward, even if I'm in a job, right? Oh, those people want me to show up and they want me to put in work and effort. Maybe I could find a different job, or maybe I don't have to put in as much work and effort. Maybe I could be a little bit more about me. Maybe I could be a little more immature, doesn't mean some people are bad people, but, everybody is where they're at. And how they view life, and kind of how much work and effort they want to put in. And there can be people, and as some of you could be moving forward in your life with whoever you're in life with, there can always be some people who could present themselves as like a loving person, but maybe they're a little more codependent. It's like, I've already been in relationships with people who are more codependent. But the other way this could be read is that some of you are moving forward. You had repeated some patterns, had some life experience, and you decided you didn't want to keep repeating that pattern. You could have been dealing with some people that were more wanting to repeat an old pattern. Some stage of life that you had been at, but they wanted to keep repeating it. So they harnessed this energy in a more shadowy way. And they wanted you to keep moving forward with them, creating the illusion like you're giving birth to something new, because that's what kind of high vibe energy is about. That it is maybe more creative and inspired and motivated more by truth and love. And in a lot of ways it might look that way, but it's like, but we never really maybe give birth to anything new because you keep repeating some patterns you could feel like they were doing, right? And so, same way at a job, people could create the illusion you should work here, we'll move forward, your dreams are going to come into reality. And you move forward with them, but then they keep repeating some patterns where it's kind of like something that motivates and inspires you, thinking you're going with them holding the one pentacle, that you're going to have this new beginning. And the one pentacle comes after the 10 of pentacles. Like, we have put in maybe some work and effort to kind of learn everything we needed to learn at a certain phase of life, or like dating someone, or being in a relationship with someone, or a friendship, whatever. And I kind of thought, we were going to be loving and encouraging of each other. Then we were going to kind of detach from some old ways of being, just like you do periodically. What are the good building blocks to take with? What are not such good building blocks to take with? And we see what should go, what should stay. And together we move forward, and we kind of take that leap of faith to become more independent of, kind of like a layer of ourself. you know, to shed a layer, just like we had to shed, be more like an 18-year-old to move forward and be more like a 21-year-old. And if other people had kind of let go of some of more of their 18 years old ways of being and thinking and logic and reasoning and behaving, for example, and other people were moving forward more, and they were all moving forward like 21-year-olds in a way, and kind of like, we're not going to repeat some of those ways of behaving or whatever, because that's kind of like backtracking. But then someone keeps kind of backtracking. It's like, eventually the other people are going to move on. It's like, hey, go enjoy your life. But, I kind of been there and I've done that. I'm ready to move forward in life differently. And when some people are ready to move forward in life a little differently, sometimes we've been the one who wasn't ready and other people moved on ahead of us. And sometimes we're ready to move forward and some other people aren't ready to move forward, right? But when people do move forward, the Temperance card can be that they're trying to balance out their emotions about the fact they're kind of not indulging themselves in a more immature way of being, and they're inspired to do life a little differently than they had been. And part of that is to love themselves and to maybe listen to their more hopeful, believing, loving nature to guide them, versus maybe being more manipulated by their more immature nature, codependent nature, fearful nature, indulging other people, indulging poor behavior in themselves and others. It's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I have a dream, and there could be people in my life I would like to have been in more friendship or relationship with, or at a job. But if it really never keeps moving forward, and I have a dream, well, I've got to balance out my emotions about the fact that some of the people I would like to have moved forward with me aren't moving forward with me. That's maybe not their truth. And they're still enjoying life and living life and viewing life the way they viewed it. And I can understand it. Been there myself, right? But out of love for myself, and the Page of Wands can mean our more creative, inspired nature, I'm going to listen to my intuition, and I'm going to work through my inner conflict about kind of high vibe energy. And the Knight of Pentacles talks about becoming independent of an old way of living life, or being more about myself. Some people could have to be working through that, because some people kind of did have a view of life that it should be more about them. I wouldn't have much hope for some of those people, because yeah, that's but we can know a lot of different people who are kind of good-hearted people, but sometimes they don't see how some of these, and it kind of can kind of be buried in the subconscious, I suppose, in the way we're brought up. And depending on what kind of households and moms or dads or and communities and whatever that people could have grown up in, it's kind of not even realizing how we can have kind of these things that we don't even kind of realize that, well, gee, until you really drill down on it, or they drill down on it, or someone else kind of drills down on them about it, for them to see that, well, I did, male or female. I kind of thought, wasn't it, I don't know, or even just being a little more codependent or a little more immature or thinking they should kind of be indulged a little bit more in the relationship, and like the other person is the one who puts in more work and effort to keep it moving forward and making it more just and fair and balanced and loving, and they kind of get a coast a little bit. And some people are like, I've already been in relationships with people who are like that. I want someone who is inspired within themselves to want to, who is that type of person. You want to put in work and effort, just like you'd like to have, if you were a supervisor or you owned your own business, you'd like to have some employees who are self-motivated within themselves. They enjoy coming to work because they like their job. And if you don't like this job, maybe you should go find a different job that you do like. But, the people who enjoy the friendship, the community, the relationship, the job, and are inspired within themselves to want to put in work and effort, where you're not maybe constantly like, if you were a loving and encouraging person, it's constantly like, yeah, keep going. Yeah, no, no. It's like, I would rather, and high vibe people kind of lead by example. And some people are good leaders, and it does kind of motivate and inspire other people to put in work and effort, and maybe kind of make them realize that, also, if I don't put in some work and effort, they might move on without me. And why don't I put in more work and effort? And in high vibe, the Knight of Pentacles and Virgo energy talks about having some self-awareness and some self-insight, and seeing some ways of living life or viewing life or attitudes or kind of belief systems that you could have that, where you kind of indulge yourself in a more repeating some poor past patterns, or whether it's being defensive or immature or whatever it is. Let's go look what these are, because some people, if they're being kind of shadowy, some people just realize they made a mistake and this isn't their truth, and they're going to wish some people peace, and they're going to take some time to think about what their truth is and offer love to themselves before they move on, maybe before getting a different job or something like that. So we're going to read these cards from a couple different perspectives, but let's go see what they are. The Seven of Pentacles, the Three of Pentacles, and the Four of Cups. Well, the truth is, with some people, is we can get in more mismatched relationships. And some people were kind of hiding with these cards not showing themselves, that they really don't operate from a foundation more motivated and inspired by truth and love. And if they're in relationships with people who are like that, they have to kind of maintain more balance within themselves, and, kind of work together with people kind of more motivated and inspired by justice and fairness and truth and love. And for some people, that really just isn't their truth. And they'd really rather are more inspired to maybe be in a relationship where that isn't required of them. Just like some people could like to have a job where they get to be a little more slack or a little more lazy, or can't can't I just coast and other people do the work? Maybe be a figurehead, or I'll be the encouraging and supportive person and other people do the work. But some people, shadowy energy can be where people want to try to present themselves as a more just, fair, emotionally mature, motivated and inspired by love. It's not more about them. It's not more about the ego or the image. But for some of them, at some point in their life, they detach or let go of aligning and operating from their more loving nature and in their free will. They went from the 7 down to the 3, and that's letting go of the 4 of Pentacles, holding in high vibe onto their more high vibe nature and having that be what guides and motivates them in their life. And somewhere along the way, some people are like, I don't think that's that important. And that can be where people think, I can wear a false mask. I can use my emotions and my sexuality and my words and my charm and my looks and all those things kind of more manipulatively to get what I want in a relationship. I don't think I really have to invest in truth and love. I think I'll create an illusion I'm motivated by that. But then they get in a relationship with people like that and who are motivated and inspired by love and are putting in work and effort, motivated and inspired by love, which again it's supposed to be love and it is supposed to be just and fair because love is supposed to be just and fair. And eventually they're kind of like, I don't know because again, the difference between the 1 and the 6 is the 5 of Wands, which is our ego nature. And I have inner conflict is what the 5 of Wands talks about. It's like, I kind of have to let go of being more about myself or these things of the world and making it more about me in order to invest in that truth. And I guess there's some people, I think people wouldn't easily be able to do that because that is like the 5 of Wands, and like every wand can be these lessons we have to learn, and we don't learn lessons overnight, especially 5 of them. If you were to think of things that you wanted to change in your life, a habit, a pattern, a way of thinking, a way of feeling, a way you view yourself, a way you view others, a way you view the world. One of those things could take years or decades to really get where it is no longer something that manipulates you. You've moved on. Say if somebody had a harsh, critical inner voice every day, I'm going to quit being a harsh, critical inner voice to myself and turning my back on myself and not offering myself love and kind of letting my shadowy ego nature criticize me and belittle and berate me, right? Well, every day you could say you're going to stop doing that. And how long does that take of real consistent work within yourself where you don't do that anymore? And that's kind of high vibe energy. I've become independent of my more shadowy nature, and I've learned to love myself because I am the manager of my life and I am my only client and I'm not a child anymore and I'm an adult. And unless I want to keep getting in codependent relationships or keep belittling and berating myself and looking outside of myself for the answer, I need to learn to love myself, balance out my own emotions, offer myself, treat myself and be loving and nurturing to myself, to my own fearful nature, to my own insecure nature, be like my own best mother, father, coach voice to myself. And if you do that, you kind of free yourself from some things that used to manipulate you. But trying to take on 5 things at once, And that's a lot. Like, oh, I'm going to start walking every day and I'm going to quit smoking and I'm going to quit belittling and berating myself and I'm going to, I don't know, whatever people's issues could be. That's a lot. That could take a long time. I mean, with dedicated effort, it might take someone 5 years to really get those things that they want to change to be the new norm in their life. They've completely detached from that old way of living life and viewing life and thinking and feeling and behaving and reacting and responding, right? Some of you, some people were repeating some old patterns, and shadowy energy can be, I don't think truth and love is the answer because that does take work and effort, and I'd have to deal with the truth. I'd have to see how I indulge poor behavior in myself or others, and I'd have to kind of figure out why I do that, and I'd have to do this work to love and believe in myself. And some people are like, I don't have to do that. I can just go live my life the way I've been living it, or I can operate from my defensive egoic nature, or I can go indulge in things to make me feel better. I'll just go get in a relationship. Some people look to relationships like some people look to drugs or alcohol to be the answer to their problems. I don't got to do that. And plus, some people don't want to see the truth. You know, you have to be even inspired. Got a lot of fire sign energy here. You have to be inspired to even want to get to the truth. Why am I manipulated by my past, by my past pain, heartbreak, other people in my life, the world, my ego, whatever? You know, I'd have to be willing to look at all those things. And that takes work and effort. That's what high vibe Virgo energy that we can all tap into if we want. You do the inner work within yourself. Why do I invest in things that aren't very loving to myself? Why do I invest in other people who maybe aren't very loving? Why do I invest in people who may be immature? Why do I invest in people who are kind of more about themselves or more materialistic or more egotistical or more bossy or controlling or more superficial and shallow? Well, it can be, needless, we want friendship and relationship. But it doesn't mean we have to get in a more involved friendship or relationship with people. We can have friends and acquaintances and not get in a more involved relationship. But, you know, fire sign energy can be either we would really like to be in a more involved relationship, and so we get in them even though we maybe shouldn't. And, you know, we want to manifest these things in the world. But if we keep wanting to manifest certain things in the world and it keeps not turning out the way we want, again, high vibe energy is when am I willing to see the truth that what I'm doing isn't working, or the people I'm choosing to hang out with or invest in or not on the same page, and I need to quit investing. I need to see where I need to heal and grow and mature myself, and I also need to get in relationships maybe with people who are more on the same page as me. And if there isn't anyone around right now in the Five of Wands kind of that is the right person, well, then I'm going to enjoy my life, my friends, and my family. But some people could feel like, but is that ever going to happen? Well, life is about going on this adventure and believing that if we plant good seeds, we'll reap a good harvest. But in our more worldly nature, but I want it now. That's kind of the opposite of Sagittarius energy in high vibe, because high vibe Sagittarius is, and high vibe Leo is tempering, being patient, working through, doing this work. In the Temperance card, sometimes in the deck, it'll show the 1 cup of fire and the 1 cup of water. I do want these things of the world, but if I don't take action, inspired to take action based on my truth of what I'm trying to manifest, I will kind of be planting seeds maybe that aren't aligned with my truth, hoping other people will change. And how has that worked out for me? So I'm done trying to make other people change. I'm going to enjoy people in my life, live my life, and believing that if I keep investing in my truth and I don't get myself tangled up in things I shouldn't get tangled up with, maybe to begin with, and believe in myself, and that, see who I can be loving and encouraging to a lot of people, know a lot of people, but I'm more inspired to invest my time, energy, and effort into people who seem to be not repeating some of these old patterns. And go find people who are, and that frees you up to go find the people who are just living your truth and doing things that you enjoy, and that, kind of having hope and faith and belief in yourself and in your dreams. But some people could look at it and it's like, well, that seems a long way off, and I have no idea when that'll happen. So I'm going to do this instead. And some people are in some relationships that they might be thinking they don't even really want to hold on to or stay in, because maybe it really wasn't love. Maybe it was want for friendship or relationship, all the perks that can come, and the sexuality and all that can come from being in a relationship, but it's not really kind of what they had planned. But what they had planned required them to temper themselves and not get involved in things they shouldn't get involved in a way. But we've all been there, right? And then there's some people, though, they don't want to do love. They do just want to kind of indulge themselves in a relationship. And if they can get in a relationship with someone who's loving and nurturing and just and fair and encouraging, it's like, that's great. It is, until the other people kind of want them to change and be someone who's like that too. And then it's like, change? Well, I thought we could just keep doing this. How about that's your truth, and I get to move forward with you with my truth. And my truth is I could be more inspired, and invested in operating from my more egoic nature, which can be my more immature nature, or my defensive nature, or wearing my false mask, or more about the ego or the image. This relationship works for me. I think we should keep doing this. I view this as victorious and successful. But the people who are the loving, nurturing people who are being authentic, eventually those people are going to leave, because it's like, I want to be in a relationship with someone who is not in it more for the ego or the image, or being superficial or immature or codependent or bossy or controlling, or for the ego or the image. We all want a balanced life. We all can put in work and effort to have stability and security. But have I people want to be in relationships with other people who are authentically motivated and inspired to be in a relationship with them, to work together with them cooperatively from love. And if it's more of these other reasons, you can go do that with someone else. And some people could see some people moving forward in that high vibe energy, and they could be thinking, gee, I'd like to maybe be in a more involved friendship or relationship with that person. But that person has been illuminated to the truth about people like me. Whether you're male or female, or they're male or female. Some people just want to indulge themselves in a relationship and not really invest in the truth, which is supposed to be love, and love is supposed to be just and fair. So then some of those people will kind of be hiding the fact that they could have invested and worked with someone who is loving and encouraging, but that person wanted them to take that leap of faith and have some more hope and faith and belief in themselves. And, the sevens are kind of like tipping in favor of, and they wanted them to see the truth and tip more in favor. High vibe energy is kind of balanced, but still tip more in favor of having hope and faith and belief in yourself, in others, and in love. And some people are hiding that they either tried, in the Four of Pentacles in between here, can be people that are tried to hold on too tightly, maybe out of fear or insecurity that people didn't really love them or would move on, and then they kind of sabotage the relationship that way, or weren't willing to take a leap of faith, and so other people moved on, are more about themselves or these things of the world, or they were at that stage of life where they were more caught up in not wanting to make a more formal commitment. If people have had time to work through those things, people could realize, just like all of us growing up, that, if I keep repeating certain patterns, some of my dreams aren't going to come into reality. And I do need to grow up. And I do need to temper my ego. And if I have some fears and insecurities about love, I need to work through those things, or I'm not going to have that. And the people who do that work within themselves to love themselves, to figure out, why don't I have more hope and faith and belief in myself or in others or in love? Well, just because some people in our life, the whole thing is, the high vibe energy is, we were given, the pentacles can mean the gifts that we've been given. We've been given the gift to go on this adventure of life. And we're not an animal who doesn't have free will, and we're not a computer. We were given our emotional nature, our creative nature, our inspired nature, our thought, our intellect, our reasoning. We were also given our intuition, and our intuition was given to us to help us, guide us, and navigate in this world, because of the fact that people can wear false masks. And there's going to be shadowy people in our life. Are we going to let our own shadow nature of immaturity, blah, 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 stop us from having our dreams come into reality? Or are we going to offer love to ourselves, to encourage ourselves to invest in loving and believing in ourselves? Or do we give up on our dreams? And there's going to be shadowy people we're going to meet in our life, and have probably had in our life, that got their own issues. And maybe some of them were immature or superficial or controlling or manipulative or not very loving and giving. Am I going to let the fact that they had their own issues that they didn't work through make me give up on believing in my dreams? They had the same question to answer within themselves, and some of those people didn't do it, and they kept repeating old patterns. I don't want to keep repeating that pattern. I want to free myself to be one of the people who, not because I don't want my past pain, heartbreak, fear, insecurities, other people who are bossy or controlling or manipulative, or the things that I wanted to work out didn't work out, stop me from loving and believing in myself. I just saw my dream can't come into reality with certain people because we weren't on the same page at the same time. And we may never be on the same page at the same time. So I'm going to go find the people who are on the same page as me. I accept the truth, and the truth sets me free. I get out of my ego, and I take inspired action in my truth. Because apparently some of the people in my life were not on the same page. My dream can only come into reality with people who are on the same page at the same time. And it wasn't them. So it must be someone else. I better catch up with some of the people who might be more on the same page as me, and get out more of the job, friendships, and relationships with people that aren't motivated and inspired by that truth, because I am. And if that's not their truth, then I wish you peace. And some people who do see people moving forward differently, again, could be thinking, why don't I do that? Why do I stay living my life the way I live it, or doing what I'm doing, or thinking or feeling what I'm thinking or feeling? I have free will. I can choose to invest in which thoughts, feelings, and emotions I choose to sit in every day. I can choose to work through them, offer truth and love to them so I can let it go. But some people are just more motivated to make their life more about the world. And some people don't think, the truth is they don't kind of aren't motivated and inspired to look at life from any other perspective. I don't think there is any other perspective they could say. We live in the world tells us to make our life about these things, and if we do these things, we'll be viewed as victorious and successful. Our world will look like we're living the life, living the dream. And they could think you live in fantasy land. You don't get it. you know? Other people could think that they don't know how you freed yourself from all the things that manipulate them that they know can manipulate you too. You could get caught up more in being in a relationship to be in a relationship because you want to feel better. It's like, I've probably already done that in my life, and I realized it didn't work out. And then I had to disentangle myself from something I shouldn't have been in maybe to begin with. So I'm not going to do that anymore. And there's other things I could indulge in to try to make myself feel better. I've maybe already done that. I realized that didn't work either. I also maybe had to learn to love myself. You know, I've just, I look at life differently. I've changed. I'm not the same person I was before. And just other people are at a different stage of life. And, they'll have to go through their own life experiences to decide if they want to keep doing that or not doing that. And some shadowy people, they don't want, high vibe energy is being inspired by more just and fair relationships. Some people don't want more just and fair relationships. That's why they're not getting in relationships with people who are. Some people don't want to be more independent in the world, want to make their life more about conforming to the world. Might have friends and family who live their life that way. And the most important thing can be to create an illusion of how wonderful your life is. You don't really go live your more authentic life. So they could see you as very independent, looking to move forward, very confident. Some of the people will be inspired by that and want to move forward with you. And as you move forward, not investing your time and energy more into people who are repeating an old pattern, you'll probably come across more people who are in that energy like you. Some people want to be in relationships with people who are more worldly focused, who would rather be in a relationship maybe for the status and the ego and image, just would look good. And maybe neither one of them really want to do deep, meaningful relationships of love. It's all about creating this illusion. Do you think that way? Yeah, I do think that way. We should go and present ourselves in the world like this is all inspired by love, and we've had this new beginning, and we're moving forward in it. Everybody has their idea of what they want to manifest in their life. And some people are going to do that. Some people don't want to do love. Some people want to be in relationships with people who don't love themselves. Will you be more codependent on me? Kind of make me like God in your life. I don't want you to become more independent. I want to be like a parent in your life, and I could be loving and encouraging to you to a degree in the relationship, but only so long as you stay more codependent. If you work through too many of your issues and then you free yourself and you want me to change, oh no, then the relationship's over. And I'll go find someone else to be in a relationship because I don't need to change. So some people are kind of full of themselves. And that's the kind of relationship dynamic they like. What's going on? And high vibe people, they're willing to not as motivated, to operate from their ego. I don't want to have regrets in life. So I'm willing to humble myself and because I don't really think of it as ego. I want to tell people my truth. Then I know I told people my truth. And then it's up for them to decide what they want to do. And I'm willing to tell people my truth. I've had lessons to learn. And now I'm moving forward like this. Do you want to move forward with me in that way? And some of those people are like, nope, not my truth. You can go. Other people maybe are people that were already in your life that were going on that journey with you and learning lessons and being loving and encouraging to each other, and they want to keep moving forward with you. And then there's other people that see you doing it, and then they could think, why do I live my life the way I do it? And then those people are going to make their free will choice. In the meantime, you're moving forward and investing in moving your life forward with the people who are willing to work with you cooperatively in a just and fair and loving way. Can extend more grace to some people who are more younger in your life. Say it's at work or young adults or children in your family. You're not going to expect them to know all the things that you would expect a more adult person to know. But the people who are more adults, you do expect them to quit being more immature. And I think the shadowy people try to hide from people that it really isn't love that drives and motivates them. They will probably try to present themselves like, oh, this is love. That's our truth too. But it's really more, they harness their Virgo energy in a more shadowy way. It's more about being in a relationship to be in a relationship, kind of more about the ego and the image, how they're being indulged in it, how it's good for their ego or their image, or what they indulge in, and finding somebody who's willing to indulge in those things with them. Other people are doing truth. So what's coming up? For some people who harness some high vibe Gemini energy that they might not see coming up. The Queen of Cups. Why? Because of the Devil. Our own shadow nature and other people who are in shadowy energy want us to keep staying in shadowy energy. So we will keep repeating a pattern and a way of living life and viewing life like they do. But you offered truth and love to your own shadow nature, and the Queen of Cups is about offering yourself love. The Sixes can talk about balance, and with the King and the Queen of Cups there, you got balance within yourself. The King of Cups can represent your more worldly nature of self, and the Queen of Cups can represent your more emotional, hopeful, believing, loving nature. And the third energy of like the child is that Kriv-inspired aspect of yourself. You weren't willing to keep indulging your shadow nature and other people in shadowy energy. You offered truth and love to it and to yourself to free yourself. And now you're moving on and having a new beginning. You've detached from an old way of living life or viewing life and some friendships or relationships or jobs that you were in. And you're moving on to the next level of the video game of life. At every stage of life, there's certain lessons that we have to learn to authentically. We can try to fake moving forward at the next level, but people can see, oh my gosh, you're immature, you're bossy, you're controlling. It's like you have definitely not learned some lessons, and when other people try to move forward in a certain way, like, oh no, I've learned those lessons. It's like, no, you haven't. There can always be people wearing a false mask, which is easier in like society at large. People might believe them. But if it's a more romantic relationship, those people really get to know them. And it's like, no, you're more superficial, shallow, more about yourself, more immature, more codependent, more about you. and those people move on. But there'll always be new people who have lessons learned from people like that. So some people who try to present themselves as more high vibe, um, could be sad that people kind of saw through the illusion because the devil, or people who are in shadowy energy, more shadowy energy, um, we have all these people in our life. And for the first 30, 40 years of our life, we're pretty caught up in the world. And so that's probably how we live life and view life. And we're going to get in relationships where we went through those stages of life together and we have these ways of living life and viewing life. When you, in your fire sign energy, get inspired to look at life differently, it is like kind of a little bit of a paradigm shift. Just not caught up in those things like you were. And now it's like more motivated and inspired by a higher truth and justice. You still have your job, you still enjoy your friends, but you just don't, less manipulated by things that you used to be, more free and independent of things that used to manipulate you, to be more independent. So you're going to move forward in life differently along with some other people in the world and in your life. And there's going to be some other people that are going to go repeat an old pattern. What's coming up for some people who are going to repeat an old pattern, which might be, I think I can just keep operating, investing in my ego nature, and probably try to get in a relationship with someone who's loving and tempt them. The devil tries to tempt people with more of these worldly things, which in our more human worldly nature of self, those things can really manipulate us. Again, we want friendship, we want relationship, we want stability, we want security. But other people kind of realize you're asking too much of a price to pay. I can't be more authentically myself, or I'm not in a relationship with someone who actually treats me the way I treat them. And that's too high a price to pay, and I'm not willing to do it. And then the next people who come into that job, friendship, or relationship, they have to make that decision for themselves. And you don't really care because that's their free will choice to manifest what they want to manifest. But you moved on. And because some people could see you have moved on, they're going to go try to find someone else to try to repeat that pattern with. And if some of those people got in a relationship, the devil doesn't want to trap demons in a relationship with them. The demons are already looking at their boots. The devil wants to try to capture an angel who'll keep indulging them in their poor behavior. And the angels need to say no. Sometimes I think that when I think about tarot, this whole idea that there's nothing new under the sun, that everything that happens at the small scale is a smaller picture of something going on at the bigger picture. So we live in a world of duality where we have the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, and we can choose what we want to choose. But the energies of high vibe energy wanting us to free ourselves and give birth to new things in love, offering truth and love for other people to move forward with us. But if that's not their truth, we wish them peace and they can go live their life the way they want. But it does kind of sometimes make me think about, and I read about the angels and fallen angels, and I can't find it back, but I think I just did a search on the internet a couple years ago about, did angels have free will? And I was able to download this PDF of, I think it was like a dissertation kind of paper of someone who's maybe in theology school. But it is, and probably other people agree with that philosophy of thought, but that the angels had free will too. And so, we're just an example of the smaller scale, as human beings, are we going to come down into this game of life, and are we going to see through the illusion and our more being about ourselves and our lust and our greed and our pride and our ego? Are we going to invest in love, or are we not? And love ourselves and learn to love ourselves, to overcome, offer love to our shadow nature to kind of grow it and heal it and mature it. So it will believe that we are going to look to get the things that we want in the world, but we're going to go about it in truth and love. We're not going to go about it in a more shadowy way. What's coming up for some people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Gemini energy that they might not see coming? A card not showing itself, and the reason is because of the Karma card, which is Justice. Got an alarm on my phone. What is the card that they don't see coming? The Six of Wands. Why? Because of judgment. Other people, you have to hold yourself accountable in the Judgment card. To kind of invest in your truth, stand up for your truth, be willing to take that leap of faith, to have some hope and faith and belief that you have more to work with in this world than just the things of the world. That there is like that creative life force energy, kind of like if you're somewhere, like a job, and people are kind of creating a little hell on earth. I think in a world of duality, that means somebody's creating a little heaven on earth. And if it's telling you, this is a little bit of hell, okay, that sucks. I didn't really, we'd all like things that we invested in to work out the way we wanted. But when we see that they're not, then we do this work within ourselves about working up the courage to go look for a new job, or distance ourselves from some friend or relationship, to go out there in the world and become independent of it. And what the shadowy people who don't ever, and you also have to hold yourself accountable, because you have to get out of your ego to say, like, this didn't work out the way I wanted. Maybe I didn't listen to my intuition. But I'm not willing to stay in something that really isn't inspiring and loving and encouraging. And if I'm acting and interacting with people authentically from that place and they're not, why would I want to keep staying there? And that's what they don't see, because some of these other people could really have a hard time, the Six of Wands here, of getting out of their ego or their fear or their insecurity or self-limiting beliefs. And they keep making the decision to just keep doing what they've been doing, even though it doesn't work out the way they want. But because it would require them to change and do some of this inner work or self-reflection to deal with the truth. It could be some people, they would like to move forward in life differently, but if these people don't move forward in life differently because maybe they're a core foundation in their life, then I'm not going to move forward in life differently. It's like, okay, well, how's that working? Well, I really wish they'd move forward. I keep being loving and encouraging, hoping, we can all move forward. But they're not inspired to do that. So then I'm not willing to do that. Well, that's being in more codependent energy, to be more independent, to live your more authentic life. You do what you want to do, and I'm going to go do my life. But they might not be willing to do that, because shadowy energy could be that some people are kind of bossy or controlling, or like to be manipulative or whatever, and like everybody being more codependent. And they could feel like if they were to live their more authentic life, like maybe some of those people would turn their back on working with them and would be mad at them. It's like, why are you going to let that keep you from living your more authentic life? That doesn't sound very loving to me. But there are people in the world like, well, if you don't live your life like we live life, and we didn't invest in the truth, and we didn't get inspired to get out of our ego, and we live our life like this, And if you go live your life like that, I don't know, things won't be the same because you're doing your life differently. You've stepped out of our comfort zone. You're more inspired by truth and love, and we just like to create the illusion that we're loving, but we're kind of more superficial and shallow. And so some of those people, they won't move forward. And other, it's like shadowy people have things that manipulate them, and they want other people to get in a relationship with them and let those same things or those people or whatever it is manipulate them too. And what they didn't know is that some of the people they get in relationship with harness high vibe Leo energy instead of a more high vibe Leo and Gemini. They're more motivated and inspired by truth and justice and fairness and being more independent. And they could know, and they within themselves could harness a more shadowy Gemini Leo nature where their truth is they're more motivated by their defensive nature, their ego, or the world. And that's what they kind of count on. They're hoping that other people won't love and believe in themselves, that they will indulge them in either a superficial and shallow, more relationship, or whatever these things could be. Because wanting to maybe use the love that you have for them, like other people could use the love that they have for people, to manipulate them. And even your love of the world, love of your fearful nature, love of your self-protective defensive nature. And it's like, no, I'm going to work through my stuff and I'm going to move forward because I don't want to keep repeating an old pattern. I'm ready to move forward in life differently. And up here, the devil can mean that, for one, it can kind of be righteous anger that people are being bossy or controlling or unjust or unfair. And it stirred your anger enough to get you to stand up for yourself. This is unjust. This is unfair. And if you think I'm going to keep indulging in this poor behavior, you're wrong. And the devil can also mean facing your fears and being in relationships with people who challenge you to grow and heal and mature yourself and keep doing it. When we're in relationships with people where we're always trying to change them, it's always them who needs to change. And that's why some of the people we can get in relationships with, you could feel like they were kind of like a loving and encouraging person to you. And you can be a loving and encouraging people, trying to help other people change, to work through some issues. But with some of the people in your life, that was truly who they were. They really did want you to free yourself from things, just like they wanted to free themselves. And then let's keep moving forward. But other people that you could have gotten in a relationship where you thought, oh my gosh, I've met somebody who's like really on the same page as me. They were okay with you changing. You might have had some changing to do, but when it got to them needing to change, no, you were more the subordinate and you were supposed to follow their lead. So it's all fine until like the teacher needs to become the student. Oh no, not doing that. You can go, I will go find someone else and repeat this pattern over with someone else. So it's kind of like being loving and encouraging because they like to play that role in people's life. It's good for their ego and their image. Look, they changed, they healed, they grew. I know I'm wonderful. But then, again, it's kind of like how it's good for their ego and their image, but they could like a more codependent relationship. And if it gets to where they have to get out of their ego and hold themselves accountable and see what needs to go, oh no, then they're going to indulge in their ego. That's when the relationship comes to an end. So what they don't see coming is more high vibrational people will leave their life. And the people who they do more align with are other people who aren't inspired to probably hold themselves accountable for their actions either. And kind of like to indulge himself in a relationship and kind of manipulate people. Because you're either being truthful and honest and authentic and loving in a relationship, or you're trying to manipulate them to get them to do it you want. And you might know some people who are being kind of manipulated by some other people also, just like they're manipulated by their ego and whatever. But they could have people that they think, oh no, these people have my best interests. Like, if they did, they would encourage you to work through your fears and insecurities, but they could try to tell you shouldn't align with the people who are loving and encouraging. Those people, I don't think they have your best interest. And part of it can be because those people don't want them to be independent of them because they like to manipulate and control them. So you're going to let them work it out. You've moved on. And as you're moving on, you could have communicated with some people. Some of those people are like, oh, sorry, I'm already moving on with someone else. Oh, okay, that sucks. But that's okay, because I believe God's got a plan for me. So, it's an adventure. And as you're moving forward, you can meet other people who see you moving forward and want to get to know you more, you know? And then, the people that you're more on the same page with, you work things out with. And the people who've already moved on with someone else or doing whatever, it's like, okay, well, some people can just be good role models in our life. And some people are kind of bad role models in our life. So there you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.